Our next coating is going to be a single part bedliner. We're going to mix in some microspheres, or ceramic bubbles as they're known. Okay, our next coat is going to be a single part material. We can thin it with acetone. Our thin ratio is going to be 1:8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and thin this now with my acetone. I'm going to spray on one thin coat. It's going to be our tie coat. And then what we're going to do is we're going to mix in some ceramic bubbles, or microspheres as they're known, into this, and that's going to give us some sound deadening and heat insulation type properties. It's important when you're mixing up these products to scrape the bottom of the can. The bottom of the can is where a lot of your solids will settle out to. As I mentioned earlier, this is going to be just a tie coat, so it's going to be very thin, and what we want it to do is we want it to soak into all of this texture. So we want it to bite in. It's going to be our bridge coat. So I've got a small area sprayed now. What I'm going to do is come over top with a brush, and I'm going to really force it in there. As we come over top of this with the brush, it is smearing, it is smoothing, which is a good sign. That means it's not too dry, and we are able to manipulate it and force it into those voids. So this should be a good enough tie coat. What we're going to do now is go ahead and come over with our mixed up product. Now these ceramic bubbles or microspheres can be very, very dusty and very harmful if breathed. So when you are mixing these, make sure to use the proper breathing apparatus. I should also note that when you are mixing these, you don't want to use a very fast motion, and you don't want to use a shaker either, because it will actually crush the spheres. Now this might look deceivingly lumpy at this point, but resist the urge to thin any further until you've given it enough time to mix, because it really, really changes throughout the process. I want to mention that I ended up thinning this a little bit more, because it wasn't quite spraying how I wanted it to. It was not laying out very nice. So I did thin it additionally, not very much. Yeah, you can see this coat is mostly flashed off now. It's starting to dull out. There's a few spots that are still a little glossy where we put it on a little bit heavier. So we're getting ready to do our second coat. I just want to mention my reasoning in doing this. I plan to not use carpet inside of this cab So I'm trying to do most of my sound deadening and heat insulation through coatings. I have the exhaust running right underneath the cab. The motor, of course, sits right up against the front of the cab. And I don't want to have a lot of resonance, a lot of noise inside of the cab. I'm trying to eliminate all echoes and engine noise and heat coming up from the bottom side of the cab. That's the reason for doing so many coatings on the bottom. Well, it's time to tackle the bed floor.